Life is full of adversities. We all go through it. We get all confused, we're mixed up, we don't know what direction to go, we're hesitant. A friend says, listen to your mind. Somebody says, listen to your heart. And somebody else says, listen to your gut. What do you listen to? How do you know which is which anyway? It's all mixed up. It's all confused. Wouldn't it be great if you can tell the difference between your emotional thoughts and your intuition? It would be great if you can trust that instinct, because that instinct is always looking out for your best interest, but also looking out for the interest of the people around you. You see, your gut instinct is smart. It's a reflection and an expression of the infinite wisdom of this universe. When you listen to your emotions, most of the time it has to do with you. But when you listen to your instinct, which is a direct connection with nature, it's benevolent for everybody involved, not just you. It's a better way to handle situations. Now, I want to talk to you about something I call pain in the assets. Now, pain in the assets can be best described by using a chart that I've created to explain this concept. Now, this chart here looks like the solar system. It could also be an atomic structure, but what it really is your life. Now, your life starts with the center. That's you. That's your awareness looking out. Now, your awareness is surrounded by assets. The first thing and the closest thing to you is your physical form, your body. Surrounding that are those that are close to you, the people that you love, including family members, loved ones, associations, societies, neighborhoods. Surrounding that are things that you've accumulated over the many years, the thousands of things that you have stashed away in your drawers, in your closets, in cabinets, in your basement, in your garage, in your attic, in your car, even in your office. You have thousands of things that you've purchased over the many years that you consider part of your identity. That's the guy that likes to wear the red scarf, drives the blue BMW, works in New York City, and has a really buff body because he's been working out. Oh, I know who you're talking about. So that's how we describe somebody, by their assets. You never say, oh, you know that soul I'm talking about. Well, what soul? Well, the one that has all of these things. Oh, now I know who you're talking about. So really, we are identified by assets, by stuff, by things, including mental constructs that includes knowledge and experience, because the knowledges and experiences you have are also part of your identity. Oh, that's the guy that went to Paris last year who also did some skydiving over the summer. So that's part of the person's identity. And further out is even another thing that's very important. That's the roles that you play. That includes being a son, a mother, a father, a cousin, a doctor. Whatever your role is, it's all part of your identity. When you identify somebody or you describe somebody, you don't describe them as you being a soul. You describe them in terms of their assets. That's the description of who they are. You are the most unique individual that ever existed. Now, I brought up the subject of assets because assets can be a pain, and I mean the emotional pain. When they're moving towards you, you get all excited. There's hope, there's excitement. But when assets are taken away from you, you get scared, you get angry. So when there's motion of assets, as in emotions, you feel it. You feel it. There's a gravitational pull of the assets towards you, but then there's another gravitational force that's pulling assets away from you. So that's scary. The thing is that when you can clearly identify what the assets are and what direction they're moving, whether towards or away from you, you can now distinguish between emotions and intuition. So you can separate those two. Assets come and go, and they create or stir up emotions. When you get assets moving in your direction, you get all excited. You become very hopeful. But when assets are threatened and pulled away from you, then you get scared, you get angry. Emotions are part of a cycle. because there's an ebb and flow and movement of assets. They're part of a cycle. And there are many cycles. In fact, there is an infinite amount of cycles. And there's a cookie cutter somewhere in nature that creates cycles. And everything that's part of our reality is part of a cycle, a specific cycle for that particular thing that we're talking about. So let's talk about emotions. So there are 4 basic emotions, and that's all part of a cycle. The first one is excitement, the second one is anger, and then you have fear, and then you have sorrow, and then you start all over again. So let's look at this chart right over here. We have a complete cycle here. There are 4 quadrants. There's 4 parts to a cycle. Now, there are many nuances of emotions in between all of those, but so that we can understand things a lot better, we know generally what quadrant we're in. We're either excited, angry, scared, or sad. Now, if we understand where cycles come from, we can understand how just about everything works. So let's talk about the cycle of realities. There's 4 basic realities, and that would be matter, stuff, and then we have energy, and then we have space, and then we have time. So those 4 cycles are all sort of relative to each other, but these 2 on top are very relative to each other. You cannot have energy without matter. Matter helps create energy because matter is stuff that can burn. And when you burn it, the more stuff you have, the more you can burn. So the more energy is the result. And the bottom half of the cycle would be space and time. And those 2 are relative to each other. So you have matter and energy, those are relative to each other, and space and time, those are relative to each other. And so emotions are a complex representation of these 4 very basic realities. Now, if we plot this on a graph over time, it looks like this. It looks like a wave. We basically take the bottom half and we flip it so that it runs through time. So you have the top half of the circle, and the bottom half of the circle. And here's the quadrants right there. So when you go through emotions, you go through a cycle. So this particular graph here of a sine wave or a wave is showing a cycle in motion. You have matter, you have energy, you have space, and you have time. But they also are represented in emotions as the following: excitement, anger, fear, and sorrow, and the many nuances in between. You'll notice that the yin-yang symbol fits beautifully into a sine wave. So something from the past and something from the present. We have traditional Chinese medicine symbols that actually conform to modern physics. Traditional symbols that are thousands of years old, and understanding a philosophy of how things are created, and today's understanding, our scientific explanation of the 4 realities of matter, energy, space, and time. You'll find these cycles in everything that you experience in life. So we have the wave, and there are 4 parts to it. So let's talk about health. You have wellness, you have an injury, you have illness, and then you have healing. Production or productivity. Able, activity, fatigue, rest. Here's another one, very basic, very common. Everybody knows this one. This is the cycle of marketing or economy. You have supply, expend, demand, conserve. Let's talk about education. Here's the cycle of education. You have learning, knowing, cynical, ignorance. Eating. There's hunger, there's ingestion, there's satiation, and then digestion. Even sexual activity. You have arousal, you have the activity of sex, you have repulsion, and then you have rest. Crime and justice. You have rules, you have crime, you have justice, and you have humility. Relationships. You have expectations, betrayal, breakup, remorse. Let's talk about regeneration. You have embryogenesis, maturation, aging or decaying, and redistribution. What's led up to Wisdom in a Minute for me has been quite a journey. And this journey is not over for me. It's a continual process. And life for me has been like a flower that's been unfolding and unraveling, and it continues to do so infinitely. And the more I practice my technique, the more I reveal, the more I see the truth of what really is outside of our mind and emotions, what's really going on, and understanding how this world works. It's an ongoing experience for me, and I hope that it is for you as well, because life should always be growing and expanding for you. The law of attraction has been around for a very long time. We've been talking about it for centuries in many different forms. One of which is prayer, another is wishing. And in modern times, we call it the law of attraction, but it's really all the same thing. When you envision something, you're attracting it to you. Now, how does that work? I can explain that. When you become more insightful, you start seeing how things actually work and understanding the mechanics of this universe is really not that complex. It's really a system that's based on simple physics, a flow, a wave, a cycle. So let's talk about you willing for something, where you have a desire for something to be part of your life, to be part of your identity or your experiences. And so you have a vision of something, and so you attract it. For example, I need to work with somebody that may be resourceful to me in a particular project. So 5 minutes later, a friend of mine calls me on the phone and says, listen, I'm having a party. Why don't you come on over? And I said, well, I can't because I'm watching a show on TV. Little did I know that I willed an opportunity for myself where this particular person has invited somebody that knows somebody of the person that I had the desire to meet, who would work with me. And eventually that would have led to that. But I wouldn't know that. Opportunities are coming at you all the time. The thing is that you don't see it. You don't have the ability to see all these opportunities coming at you at a rapid rate. But when you become more intuitive, you start seeing these opportunities and you start saying more yeses to opportunities that will get you to the places you want to experience. So how does this actually work? Well, in modern science, in a particular subject called cosmology, these days they believe that there are multiple universes, because in the past we thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, but it really turned out to be just a planet revolving around the center of a solar system, the sun. And then we realized that there's many other suns out there, many stars within a galaxy that are part of a more complex system of galaxies that are in the billions. And now we've come to the understanding that there's a possibility that there are multiple universes side by side. There are various theories of these multiverses, one of which I ascribe to, and that is that there are multiple universes all together here at the same time. I sense that what we see and perceive and experience is the net result of all the universes together, and that would explain the law of attraction. So let's say I'm looking through a window into a house, and I see a person staring at a fish tank. He's got his finger on the fish tank, and as he's moving it, the fish is being attracted to that finger. So that's the practice of law of attraction. But it seems to me from the outside that they're all in the same space, but they're really not. The person's in a room, the fish is in its own little universe, but they're somehow connected, and there's an attraction. But I'm knocking on the window and the person's coming up to the window. So there's a connection right there. So I'm basically seeing, if a person was behind me, I'm seeing what they're seeing, and that is the net result of all the universes together flattened into one experience. When you will for something, or you have a vision for something, and understand that we're all connected. We really are all from the same source. So it's not even like a connection, like a Lego connection. It's really just one thing. But when you will for something, an object or a thing or an experience, it's willing you back. So the best way to will for something is to envision that you're that thing wanting you, because you are that thing and that thing is you. But if you want that thing to want you, it'll move a lot faster. So when you will it, it starts moving in your direction. How does that happen? Let's talk about the science of electricity. Now, when you look at a light bulb, it's flickering on and off 60 times a second. And science has revealed that matter, stuff that we can actually feel and hold and weigh, is sometimes a particle and sometimes a wave. It literally disappears and then comes back as a particle. What that says is that this universe goes on and off. It switches on and off. Who knows how many times a second? It could be in the thousands, but we don't know. How do we count that? When it disappears, we're not here to count it. We have no measuring tools. We have nothing to determine how many times and what happens. But according to science, it alternates. Atoms alternate, meaning that this universe shuts down, comes back, shuts down, comes back, meaning that our perception of time is the result of these frames in a film, in a movie, going so quickly that it seems that time is moving smoothly, and that movement is smooth, and there is no frames, but there are. So the space between the frames is when there's a slight change. Your vision of whatever it is that you desire will start moving in your direction, and that happens every time the universe comes back. And when it shuts down, it reconfigures and it comes back slightly different each frame, and things start moving in your direction. Since 1991, I've been gathering my thoughts, writing notes, building a manuscript, and leading up to my book, Wisdom in a Minute, that helps you achieve a clearer perception of what's really happening. It allows you to crush the stream of thoughts that create emotional reactions, so that you can be as close to intuition and the wisdom of the universe, so you have solutions that are beneficial for everybody around you, including yourself. And the book reveals a lot more detail, scientific, philosophical, spiritual. It all comes together to explain how everything works. But I'm still on my journey, and the explanations continue to unravel themselves, and they continue to unravel. And it makes more sense every day for me. And it will for you when you read the book and understand the mechanics. You'll be given formulas and exercises to help you get closer to that midline, so that you also can see what's really happening. It creates a more understanding, awareness of people's reactions and emotions. It'll help your relationships with everything, relationship with money, with people, with jobs, with this world. And so simple physics is the formula I use. That's the wave formula to help you realize what the components of any cycle is, so that you can then configure how to match it, how to realize how to improve on the situation, how to make it more effective, how to be more productive, how to be more solution-oriented for yourself and everybody around you.